Okay, so when you have a really good herd of milk goats, you get what is called genetic saturation. You have some really great genetics, but you need to bring some different ones in because you can't be breeding quite so much of the same thing into your herd. You just need new genetics. So we have two matriarchs that we're selling. They're some of our foundation stock, and we are selling them to a friend, Willow Creek Homestead, and they will be returning us babies from their first breeding in exchange for a lower price. So I wanted to walk Trish through how we take care of our goats so that they stay high production milkers, so that they stay free of diseases, so that they're enjoyable to own. So we'll go ahead and explain that to you now. So these are the bins that we use for our grain, whether it be for chickens or goats. We also have two over there for rabbits. But this is the mix that I use. The reason for the mix is that if you give them a lot to choose from, then they eat it pickily and kind of sort through it. Whereas if you only give them sweet feed, which this is barley with molasses in it, if you only give them something sweet, they gobble it down, and then when you're not done milking, they start kicking. So this is alfalfa pellets. It is not rabbit food, it is alfalfa pellets, and it is not cubes because the goats can choke on the cubes. And then this is beet pulp pellets. And then the first one I showed you was, let's see if I can get it to focus, black oil sunflower seeds. If you just spread these out in your pasture or in your garden, they will grow, and then you can harvest them. Okay, this is what it looks like mixed. We'll eat about half of a can, which means instead of spending $50 a month on feed, you're spending about $12 a month on feed. And that's the mix it looks like. Alright, this is what your hay should look like. It could be a little bit greener. This is from last year, but you can see there's a little tiny bit of clover and alfalfa in it. This will be your alfalfa, but it's mostly grass. You can give them alfalfa. They're on an alfalfa pasture that is mixed with other things, but you don't want it to be straight alfalfa. It gets too hot, it can affect their feet, and if they're not used to alfalfa, you don't want to put them in a pasture with a lot of alfalfa. They will bloat. But again, this could be greener, but if it's horse hay, which needs to be grass and alfalfa, then it's safe for goats. If it has mold in it, you don't want to give it to goats, kind of the same way as horses. As a horse. Oh, okay, so we're about to teach Trish and you how to set it up for a new time milker. If you have a brand new mama that doesn't know how to be milked, or you have an aggravated cranky goat from somebody else who wasn't taught properly, you have to teach them that this is their job and that they get fed when they are milked. So when I first teach goats, I make sure there's no distractions, there's no children, no dogs, nothing like that in the milking area. They have been hungry from the night before. I gave them just enough hay so that they're not starving, but that they're hungry. And now when I give them their mixed grain, they're so focused on eating that they don't care that I'm milking. The other thing that I do is I milk onto the ground until they stop lifting their feet. Usually it takes about a week. So I milk everything out onto the ground, and it teaches them that instead of, well, I'm going to lift my foot because they have a milk bucket, instead they learn it's just not a big deal for me to be here. Okay, so this is Blossom.
Okay.
I'm going to give her her hay.
Blossom.
I'm going to give her a grain. So, do you
Okay.
know how to milk?
No, I've never milked.
So the milking action is pinch with the top and then squeeze incrementally down. Pinch at the top, squeeze down. So you face her.
Okay. Like this, and so she's full. Pin to the top.
Yeah, she hasn't
and
been
down.
milked yet today. Pinch. Pinch at the top. And she is my easiest milker. Her milk comes out so smooth and so easy that you almost, on her other side, and you need to do both hands, both at the same time.
So why is she?
Because she is being bothered by a fly.
Okay.
And so both hands at the same time, one and then the other. You allow one to fill up. Allow one to fill up while you're squeezing one. Squeeze one side, one side, one side, one side. She is my easiest milker, and she holds a lot of milk up inside. So once you start running out of milk, you need to bump her udder with your fists. And this way, you're not dealing with the bucket between her legs. She has nothing to kick at. She doesn't have anybody else here trying to get into her feed. You don't have a dog barking. You don't have kids bugging you. These guys are actually trained to be okay with kids around, and they won't move. Usually I milk them out in the middle of the pasture, so they won't move for kids.
Awesome.
But if you have kids fighting and running around, they will probably move.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now Bumper. There you go.
Kind of like the calves do when they want their bottle.
Yep. And she holds a lot of milk. They're at the end of their lactation, which means they're between the two of them, they'll probably give 3/4 of a gallon a day. And at the height of their lactation, you'll be getting 3 gallons a day.
Wow.
Between the two of these goats. So it's really important what time of year, where they are in their lactation when you first get a goat. Because if you get them when they're first starting, they'll be fidgety, they'll miss their babies. And it's important to have a place where you're secluded and you can fasten them to something.
Mm-hmm.
You see that you have this wall to lean up against here on the side that holds her to the side so that she can't move her butt away from you. That is important. It doesn't have to be a stanchion. Out in the field, they don't have anything, but they are so used to how we do it that I don't need to be able to push them up against something. When they're stressed until they get attached to you. And then with Pumpkin here, she takes 2 weeks to come in once she has babies. Her milk does not come in for 2 weeks.
Oh wow, and the babies do okay?
Well, they have colostrum.
Right.
But they don't have a whole bunch of milk. Okay, so the yellow jackets, I just noticed there's another nest. So let's move to the other one. I'll milk her out really quick.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Just watch your head because there's one there and one there.
Wow. That's a lot on that one. Wow. Yeah, I was starting to feel how I needed to pinch and are they going to be patient with me, you think?
Well, you see, she didn't lift her leg unless I took the bucket away. If they took the bucket away, then she's like, wait a minute, you took my bucket, and then she gets fidgety, but she won't kick.
Okay, so you hit her about every time.
Yeah.
Keep that.
Because I want those teats really full.
Yeah, because it's difficult when they're not.
Yeah. You want her to stay nice and full. I don't know if this is high enough for you. Okay, you gotta hurry though. You don't wait. Once you have the grain,
so
you're on the clock.
Go?
Yep.
Okay.
The less grain you have to feed them, the nicer it is because it's just less expensive.
Yeah.
And she's different.
Yeah.
She has a different shaped teat and she's harder to squeeze, but she still has really nice orifices once your hands strengthen up a bit. So remember, give me your thumb.
Squeeze.
Let me see your thumb. So like this. That's how tight I'm pinching.
Okay.
Pinch.
And then come down.
Yep, you have to trap the milk.
Why can't I get it?
Okay, let me start her for you. Sometimes they'll have a dry spot.
Okay.
Like the milk will calcify at the end, and what happens is that it just makes it a little bit harder to get that milk out because she just has a little bit of a what would you call it? A plug.
Yeah.
Like when you're breastfeeding and you have just a little bit of a plug. Okay, I'm going to get her most of the way out and then let you. Now she's almost dried up. I tried to get her quite a bit dried up. Okay, now try her. You can do it from the front or the back or whatever you want. She'll stand for you.
You good girl. We'll get this.
And she is used to being milked just once a day.
Okay.
And so milking her twice a day, I'm not concerned that she'll get mastitis. I would have it just be one person who's milking it first until you know what it feels like when she's dry. And the better you can milk her out, the more milk she'll produce.
Okay. Just like when you're nursing your own.
Yeah, just like when you're nursing your own.
Okay. I'm doing better at this left one than I'm on the right one. What's my problem?
Your hand's probably weaker. But again, as long as they're hungry and you have that feed bucket up there, she don't care.
She's like,
She will let you do what you need to do. which is why I do it that way, because most goats would be flipping a fit right now. And it's not about the goat, it's just about them understanding what's expected of them. Okay, so if you want to grab her, I'll grab her and let's go ahead and take them out. And we'll walk them up to the trailer. As far as Mama, you see the goat? You gonna come out? As far as she's okay, she's fine. She might try to come out, but I mean she can't.
Okay. Okay, so basically, they're gonna be okay if I suck up milking for a couple days, for a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where are you going? Okay, come out, Mama. I want your feet. Not the front of you, the back of you. Okay. So, you're just gonna come in here, and she's gonna do this. Yeah. So just make sure that you're careful with that point. But that's really the only thing you have to watch. You don't want to stab them in the udder. You don't want to stab them. You don't want to stab you. I've used other things that don't work as well. So that's what they look like.
Awesome.
Fun. And then the front feet are easier. Especially with something that has such a big udder in the spring. You do want to make sure to keep them well clipped because it affects the way they walk around their udder if their feet are bad.
Okay.
And they can go bow-legged. It's just, it's not as big a deal if they're not in milk, but when they're in milk, you need to keep it really
good. Okay.
And it does help sometimes for them to balance if you push them up against a wall. I usually just do it so fast out in the pasture that they don't really have a chance to really get out of balance. But see, and they will curl in on themselves. So if you have a really good rain or you flood irrigate and they're out in it, that's the best time to do it.
Oh, good.
Because then their toenails are wet. I need a little bit of length to be able to get behind her. I can't really do it when I'm up directly behind her. I have to be able to stretch her foot out a little bit. Hers. So that's why I kind of like to just do it out in the pastures, because then I can pull her to the end of her rope. No, come here. I can pull her to the end of her rope and pull that hind leg back behind her. But you have to be really fast if you don't have something for them to lean against. Yeah, I'm hurrying. Yeah, I'm hurrying, I promise. I'm hurrying. I didn't get it all the way, I'm sorry. There you go. See, that wasn't too bad. All right. And then never put these in your pocket. Never put them in your pocket, because then you'll poke your kid's eyes out, or you'll sit and you'll end up poking holes in your pockets.
Or yourself.
I should show you. I should show you the hole. You can't come out. You can't come out. And so I'm going to touch her tail and move her back up in. Because we are done. Okay.
Okay.
So I'll show you what happens to your pockets when you do that too many times.
Nice.
And you really don't want to poke your kids' eyes out.
Yeah.
Again, these are hoof rot trimmers, and I love them because they have that sharp point that can get in there between them.
Wonderful.
So any last questions?
All of them.
All of them?
No, I think I think it's something you just have to do.
I'm confident if you raised other animals, you'll be just fine. Especially where these girls, the only reason you milk them twice a day is just to let your hands get adjusted.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited.
And so for 1 week, milk them on the ground.
Okay.
Don't try to save the milk.
Okay.
And then when your wrists stop hurting, that's when you get like a 1.5 gallon type honey bucket or frosting bucket and milk into that. If you want to put the half moon on, you can, but you don't have to.
Okay.
I like to use wet wipes just before I wash, and with Pumpkin Spice, she has thin skin.
Okay.
And so she gets little calcium deposits on the surface of her teats a little bit.
Hello, cat.
And so the more you wash her and keep her really clean, the less she'll have that, but it's not contagious to you or the kids. It doesn't hurt the milk at all. It's just that she does get those little calcium deposits because her milk will actually come through the skin of her teats because she's very thin-skinned.
Okay. Okay. Good to know.
And then Apple Blossom has a hernia.
I felt something up
Just
there.
a little bump right here on the side, and it's soft. That comes from having aggressive nursers on a big bagged, heavily producing milk goat.
Okay.
So I will leave the babies on for a week, and then I take them off, and then I bottle feed them. I don't let them nurse any longer than that.
Okay.
You might want to do it a little bit longer with Pumpkin because she doesn't come into her milk until 2 weeks out. And so she'll have a very light amount of milk. Her bag will be rock hard. It'll look like she has mastitis. But if her udder is not hot, if it's not warm, she just
then
hasn't
it's
come
fine.
into her milk yet.
Okay. Okay.
And you can call me.
That's awesome.
And both of them, Apple Blossom has a tendency to deliver breech.
Okay.
Pumpkin delivers just fine, but she does have a lot of bleeding afterwards, and you need to keep her udder clean and shave around her tail.
Okay.
So it's just, you'll learn their personalities after a bit, and if you're nervous about it, we can talk through it some more. But it literally is, get a big plastic bag, a black plastic bag, and put a ponytail holder on the end, and put giraffes and baby things with long arms inside the bag, and practice reaching in and sorting out all the little critters inside this bag, putting their nose on 2 front legs and pulling them out. And if you can do that,
That's a good idea.
you can pull babies out.
Okay. That's a good idea.
Okay.
I will do that. That'll be a good vlog.
It is a very good vlog. It's a real thing because that's in essence that's what you're doing when you're helping a mom. You're just sorting out legs. You're putting a nose on top of 2 legs and you're pulling them out. As long as you don't have a neck turned back or one leg belonging to one baby and one leg belonging to another baby.
You just want to make sure you have it all right there. And just...
And the cervix will be open before you do any kind of pulling or any kind of checking.
Right, or that will be bad.
Yes,
That
if
would
you tear her cervix, she will die.
Okay.
So when you're checking, clean hands. When you're actually helping, you put olive oil or something on your hand. And what the cervix will feel like, well, it will feel tight, and you can't get even a finger through. An open cervix, as you put fingertips in, it just opens and is soft.
Okay.
And so it is really a lot about looking at diagrams, not so much about watching YouTube videos because you can't really see the inside of the goat. It's about looking at diagrams. And they both have twins. They've never had more than twins, so you're lucky there.
That's good.
More than that, and you start to have a little bit more of a complication problem. After they have babies, you bring them warm water with molasses or honey in it, and they'll drink all of it.
Okay.
And you just want to kind of keep an eye on them. And if you have a baby that is cold and not moving much, then you rub them, pat them, smack them, jiggle them, move them a lot, talk to them. If they're cold, take them in the house, put them in a not hot, but very, very, very warm bath.
Okay.
And move them and talk to them and have somebody go milk mama, put it in a bottle. It needs to stay very warm. If you put cool milk in a baby goat, it'll kill them.
Yeah.
Very warm, almost hot.
Okay.
And you need one of the screw-on baby nipples that are the teeny screw-on ones, not the pop-on ones.
Okay.
The teeny screw-on ones, they're yellow on the bottom and red on the top. They're smaller, so it's easier for the baby to nurse. Get hot milk into them. And then use a blow dryer to warm them off while you're rubbing with a towel to warm them up even more.
Stimulate them.
If you have a baby that comes out that isn't breathing, tail here, head here, legs here, and then you spin in a circle very quickly, and what it does is it suctions the nasty out of their lungs and it restarts their heart.
Okay.
And you can also do mouth to mouth.
Okay. Over the nose, over the mouth,
Both.
gentle puffs.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
Don't give them cherries or peaches or plums because they have cyanide in the leaves.
Okay.
So any pit fruit you don't want to give.
No
them.
leaves of a pit fruit.
No leaves of
Okay.
a pit fruit.
We have a little cottonwood tree that's growing. They will eat it, right? And will they strip the bark, or will they
Yes.
just eat? So they'll ruin the
They
tree.
will kill it.
Okay. We got to decide if we care about that tree.
If it has rough bark like that, they can't hurt it.
Okay,
If
it
it's
does. Yeah,
any kind of new one, you're fine. But they will stand on their hind legs to reach everything they can reach. And so if
Yeah.
anything has smooth bark, that's the part they'll kill.
Okay, good to know.
The deal here, and so you'll probably see us on doing something like this again. The deal that we're making is that for less of a price, well, actually here at first, Trisha's just taking him to go try him out for a month. See what she thinks of him. Does she want to keep him? It is a big decision, and it's a stressful time of year for me while I'm trying to get ready to get to Oklahoma, and so it just takes a load off me to have her take him, even if she doesn't want to keep him. But if you do want to keep him, so we're doing a smaller price, and what I will get in return is a weaned doe from each of the goats, and Trish will be bringing them back to breed them to the bucks that they should be bred to so that the genetics are spread out. So it benefits me because I get to keep those genetics in my herd, but I get to add new genetics in by breeding them to something else, and you get foundation stock that you can you don't have any goats yet, so it's not like you're already saturated. You have really good foundation stock, and you can bring more genetics in as you want to.
Yes.
And so it's a good thing for both of us. And sometimes people think it's cut and dried, and it's only one way. But for instance, the renters are taking nighttime chores, and their kids are the ones who come out and take care of the goats in the field. I do morning chores, and I'm the one who makes sure that we have the grazing stakes in the right place and that all the equipment is available that needs to be available. We are paying for all of our hay this year by selling the bucklings that came out of this last breeding, and it paid for all the hay for the year. The renter sells animal milk. It's classified as pet milk from the goats because we're not certified. So she sells pet milk that's for baby calves or baby goats or people to raise animals on the milk. And that's how she pays for the rest of the feed, the grain, and it pays for her chicken feed. It pays for her rabbit feed that she sells as milk.
Mom.
So there's no tried and true rule that says you can't just try something.
Yeah. And I get her expertise. She knows a lot about goats. I know nothing. I mean, I know what I watch online and whatever, but I mean, so I get her expertise. I get her good goats, good-natured goats. So really, I feel like I'm getting the better end of the deal. But
Well,
I'm glad to help.
And I don't feel that way.
too.
I guess we should both feel that way. We should both
Yes.
feel like we got the better end of the deal,
Yes.
and I think we do. So
Yeah.
And if it gets to be too much and at the end of the month, it just doesn't fit for them. It's okay. They can bring them back, and those are the goats that I'll take to Oklahoma with me. So it just doesn't matter. So
Awesome.
go check out their channel, Willow Creek Homestead, so that you can see the rest of the story with these goats. It's Pumpkin Spice and Apple Blossom, and I'm sure you'll enjoy this addition to their story. So we'll talk to you later.